Hey everybody, so this week we're going to be doing another one of the Splinterlands Share Your Battle series, which maybe I should rename because I forgot it's now called Battle Mage Secrets, and they're going over what doesn't kill you. So the what doesn't kill you rule set is very interesting as it adds extra damage to melee attacks and it also rounds up 1.5 to their speed. So this rule set is really ruled by one card, but we will also try to talk about the cards that might rule this once it is removed, which is actually coming very soon from a modern. It's kind of crazy to talk about. So let's go ahead and talk about this card right now for about another 2 months until Rebellion comes out. The king of this rule set is obviously none other than the legendary summoner that you love if you got it, you hate it if you don't. It's Biz Kitty. Why? Because it has True Strike. That's the truth of it. It has extra speed, so your team goes first, and your team can't miss even when speeds start to get quite ridiculous. In this rule speed, when people speed up with Kitty and other cards that add speed and everything, you could very easily see cards with like 12, 13, 14, 15 speed. And if you're not rocking a Kitty, even if you got your guys up to like 8 speed or something, you might have problem hitting people. So this card is almost always what rules the roost when it comes to this rule set. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the other cards that are useful in this rule set. Okay. Lily Shieldpaw is going to come into play here. Camouflage makes it so that some of these faster cards that might headhunt, might go after different people, might get kind of interesting. Well, you can make them all go after a card that you particularly feel like they should have to go after. Also in this rule set, another very interesting thing to do is to use taunt cards. Because taunt cards are so interesting, because at least if you can't dodge, you can try to focus their damage, and you can use a card with maybe a force field with a Lily Shieldpaw, forcing them to attack that force field. Well, how do you get around that kind of combo? I'd say you go with Conqueror Yasik. Yasik will then give you that speed boost that is making your guys not mixed, but it'll also bounce damage all over the place. Wait, that might not be the best play. Did I just make a huge mistake? Because when you use Yasik and you hurt every single monster, now all of them are sped up and all of them are impossible to hit even with your speed boost. This rule set is going to be really complicated for people once Kitty is gone. Oh wait, I totally ignored Astral Entity. Check that out. It'll give them all dodge on top of top end speeds. This is getting very interesting in the near future. But for now, Kitty is king. But let's go ahead and look at some of the units. Now, obviously, I'm looking at cards in Champion. I want to go ahead and look at Modern. So we're gonna click this right here. And we don't have to look at the legendaries, but we're going to look at some of the cards that are kind of interesting. Now let's see here. Let's sort them by speed, and we're gonna talk about the faster monsters. If you're talking about a rule set that already has speed, you're talking about basically guys who are really fast. And if you have melee monsters that can attack all over the board, they can get a little bit ridiculous. Now, any of these cards with phase are a very interesting play in this rule set. We're going to go right here to Genoshanis and Void Dragon. These are very interesting cards that you could put in the front position in that Lily team that I talked about. They're going to start out at 5 speed. They're going to get hit once. They're going to go to a much bigger speed, and then they might become problematic to hit. This is going to be a much bigger play once Kitty is gone. So that's something to look into. Naga Assassin is an interesting one too, because it buffs the entire team, and these are all cards that are going to stay because these are Chaos Legion. Now, when we're talking about any of the Untamed cards, as you can see right up here at the top, there's not a lot of Untamed cards that come in at this top level speed. I mean, we don't see our first one hit until, oh gosh, look, these are all, I didn't accidentally not get Untamed, right? Oh wait, I didn't have Untamed in here. I'm like, this is not making any sense. Okay, but maybe if we're talking about the future, post Kitty, we only want to give a couple honorable mentions to these cards because they're not going to be here anymore. Cards like the Head Hunter are not bad depending on what else is going on. Spark Pixies is pretty decent. Soulstorm is interesting. I like Spark Pixies. I don't like Soulstorm as much. Why? I don't know. This card seems to be able to protect itself better, not get hit as much because of that 7 speed and flying. I don't know. This card just seems to die. It's weird. Death. I don't know. Bad luck. Phantom of the Beast. I know he doesn't really come into play very often. But Dragon Jumper does, because he has a nice thing. And then one of the things, I don't know if we can sort by this. We probably can't, but at least not here. You are going to be looking at some of your True Strike ability monsters. This is the Jared Scars. This is the Archer for the Death Team. They're going to be they're usually slower, these cards with True Strike. I wish I could just call them out really quickly, but I don't know how to do that without going over to the Peak Monster site. So maybe in my next video I'll work that in here so I can actually sort them down. But here we go. Here's the Striker. He's one of your faster True Strike monsters. On the slower side of all of this, if we go near the bottom, you got cards like the Ancient Redwood, who has that True Strike, and then Jared Scar should be up here in the 2 speed monsters. How did we go from 1 to 0 and Jared's not here? Well, he's included in the interesting cards to play because if they have True Strike, they can't miss. But I don't want this video to be overly long, so we've talked about some of the cards, we've talked about some of the summoners. Really, let's go ahead and get into reviewing a couple battles, because I do have a couple battles to show you today. We'll start off with a win when I used Kitty, and then we'll go into some losses when I didn't. Let me go ahead and find this rule set. Okay, here we go, right here. This is against Operator from TNA Legion. This is going to be an example how if you have Kitty and you don't, you usually win this rule set. Now, one of the things that's interesting, I don't know if this is going to replay greatly, but you can kind of see here what my idea is here. I threw out an Almo with a Kitty. This is very fast, going to get really, really fast, really, really hard to hit. I gave it some extra HP with just this one mana here. This guy right here is going to give me some, silence some mages on the other side. Mages can be a play in this mode because if you don't have monsters with phase, they can hit. You can see that's going to be kind of helpful. You can also see right here, I went with the Revealer because expecting possibly to go against an Almo, I wanted Reflection Shield. Right here, I wanted another Reflection Shield with Fog of War on this rule set. I went ahead and threw a Gem Meteor for that. If I basically put 2 monsters that if they had to hit Almo wouldn't take damage on the Reflect, and then I threw a guy that hopefully wouldn't attack Almo. Now I didn't run into a mirror match or an Almo in the front. That's what I usually see here in Fog of War. But it isn't bad to have a monster that's going to be hunting these weaker back row monsters. For his team, it was an interesting play for this mode. It had kind of a similar idea. He put the big Chaos Dragon to avoid like an Almu or a very fast monster in the front. He threw a Riftwing that's going to end up being in the front after Ruse is dealt with. That's going to be at a pretty high speed and then get hit and go up higher. He also went with a speed boost Naga Assassin. That card was mentioned as one that's not bad to play in this mode. One of the interesting things about her, since she only does 2 damage, she won't kill herself that quick. And she can become someone that maybe somebody on the other side gets some whiffs on and takes some damage back. He went with Dr. Blight. Dr. Blight's an interesting play in this mode. I don't really love it. It's one of the few modes I don't love Dr. Blight. I know some people will say he's just so good anyways, and he is a mage, so only phase monsters can't dodge him. But the meta is to play a phase monster, and then he just can't hit anyone. This is an interesting card. Soul Strangler, obviously not a terrible card for 3 mana, very bad for our matchup. So we'll go ahead and get into the battle. Really, once I weaken his mages, the only thing that could really save him is some very interesting attacks. But I do want to show you some of the speeds here. You start seeing guys here 7, 9, 11, and things just started going really haywire in this battle. But mostly you're going to see lots of misses by Dr. Blight, and that's going to just be miss. Well, let me see if I slow things down. Maybe let's skip to results. That thing got really messed up. I forgot to slow. Oh wait, that's not the right battle. Comical of errors here if you actually are watching. Let's go down a little bit more. Kitty. Here it is. Rumble. We'll try to watch it at 2 speed so we can actually follow what's going on. So things are going to start off with my Runic Skyclaw killing this Vruz. That's going to be the very first thing that happens. Oh no, the second thing. After first Almo gets buffed up to 11, we pop him. That's going to push him up to 7. Right? We get some scavengers going on. We right there, that was a pretty lucky blow by his Chaos Dragon. I was a little bit worried. He took out my silence, and I was like, boy, the one thing that could win this for him is if that Chaos Dragon goes wild. But there, we get those double whiffs on Almo. We heal him up so that she can hit and take a damage. There, we hit the Runic. Now, that was actually kind of good because it allowed him to hit and take a shot back and die. Here, that attack was starting to worry me. Like, things were starting to look dangerous. Could his crazy Chaos Dragon take out my back row before I'm able to get him, his guys down? But unfortunately for him, my scatter shot hit exactly where I needed to, killed the Riftwing, and now the Chaos Dragon just does not have enough throughput on that damage alone. And even he's going to miss on an 11 speed Almo. And so it just becomes a war of attrition for him. He doesn't have anybody that's going to really be able to land blows on Almo. He's not going to get hurt. But just look how close that match still was to becoming kind of interesting. If he would have had one more good Chaos Dragon attack in the back, if he would have positioned things a little better, he might have been able to take out my team. Now, just to show you something too, I do have one other match we'll watch relatively quickly. I won't comment on it as much since I already broke down the one I plan to say as my share. But I did have a battle I lost right here against XV Dragon I thought I'd bring up, because this was one where we both kind of were thinking the same thing. So this is Little League version of it, where archery can be returned. So Kitty's off the table here, and it's one of the other times you have to decide what to do. Now, we both, these lineups are about as close as you can get to having lineups without, battle helpers involved. We got very, very close. Now, I will mention this is a tournament game, and this is a tournament where I did terrible, did not even place a top 5. And I haven't seen this battle because of that. So this is my first time watching it because I didn't place in enough to make day 2. You can see our lineups are very, very similar. Now, one of the things I'm surprised with, he went with this archer for the extra armor, but maybe that was a big enough play considering there was a Thorns game. Now, I went with this guy here and this guy just hoping in this mode to land some poisons. And I'm guessing by the way that this game ended, I did not land good things with my Dr. Blight. So let's see. Yeah, so my Dr. Blight hit and landed nothing. No affliction, no poison. His got an affliction. We're going to see here, he got extremely lucky right there, and that's probably what swayed this game into his favor. His one scattershotting mage took out my Dr. Blight. He would have had, I think, a chance to scavenge up some extra life, and then he might have had a chance to land it. Oh, then we had a miss there too. So speed playing a factor here. My Uraeus not getting hurt until later in the game. Didn't have enough speed to actually hit here. We hit at that point to take away that armor boost, but it's too little too late. There's not enough extra damage on my back row to ever get through the Zenith Monk. And I end up just getting dominated. And even this game is kind of glitching out on me, so that's kind of interesting. So, in the end, guys, make sure you're not like me. You don't forget to do this, Battle Mage Secrets video. I am going to be editing my titles as they have been editing theirs. This is now the Battle Mage Secrets Weekly Challenge. And I tried to lay out there some of the secrets that helped me win in this game. So thank you for that, and have a good weekend.